Hello, officials, and welcome to this week's edition of the WHSAA football teaching tapes. This is Tyler Spear, your state coordinator of football officials. Thank you for your time and eager to get started with some quick review for this week. I got a few plays for us, and one gets us into some holding philosophy, and then the other two um, are going to be related to the kick plays, which is really a fun piece of our game as well. So eager to do that. Want to shout out to Chris Edwards first for covering for me last week when I didn't have a voice. Thank you, Chris, for another great weekly video. And as always, if you out there have any film you'd like us to look at or any plays you might recommend, would be good reviews for our officials across the state, please send them my way. You know, it's not just about picking on anybody. It's about, hey, we had this unique scenario and would love for nobody else to have to deal with the same junk we dealt with. You know, that's always a big piece of it here. And again, thanks to the officials and crews that are featured in this week's film. We all get better when we all take the time to look at things critically. So go ahead and get started here. And so this first play here, we have both the sideline view and the end zone view, which is exciting. And in this play, what we're looking at is related to holding. And so to set this play up, we're first and goal really from the 6. And we're going to look over here at the action on this tackle. And I'm going to broaden this out just a little bit. Well, maybe not. So this tackle and well, come on, Spear. His block against this player here. So just to set the table for you, that's where we're looking. I'll let it play through and then we'll talk about it. I guess I should say it is the tackle and not the split in there, but the tackle's block here. And so as we watch them engage, and you see this melee that goes down to the ground and then the flag goes out, play ends up going for a score. Couple little things here. You'll see the wing official go up there. Obviously, folks, if you have a flag or if you know as a wing official, if you know a flag's been dropped, whether it's yours or one of your crewmates, we don't want to go up with a touchdown just because that sends the wrong message. It can be confusing to those around us, to those in the crowd. So just stop. Just in that situation, you want to stop the clock. So, but if we back this up, I'll let it go through one more time, and you can see hands outside the frame. I'm seeing that there, and then so you can see the hand there go outside the frame, and you'll see these guys go to the ground here, and it looks like, wow, boy, is that the defender that did that? Is that a reverse takedown kind of thing? And it gives us pause, right? And we should think about this, but this was thrown on the offense, and I think for good reason. I think this is a correct call. So when we transition to the end zone view here, you should be able to see that now. Again, I'll highlight this for you. So we're looking at this tackle here. The tackle here, you can see my mouse and his block up here. And what I'll do is I'll let it play through, and then we'll look at it again. Pretty interesting stuff. So if we let this go, and then I'll slow it down here. It's a pretty darn good get when you really think about it here, because there's lots of indicators, and I can see and certainly can understand the thought of, well, man, this is on the defender here. But as we go and slow this down, there's our block, and we're clearly outside the frame. And so that of course is our first thought here, is that we're outside the frame. You can see the arm there, just well, maybe a different color ought to help there. All right. So we're outside the frame. And that's obviously our first indicator there for this particular play. And then as this goes forward, you see the defense, and he definitely is trying to shuck that blocker. Now, as we know from our definitions, the defender has the right to use his arms to ward off a blocker. And clearly that's what he's trying to do here. It looks pretty gnarly, and it looks like perhaps he's the one doing the taking down. But at the end, and I'll loop this around for us again, it is clear the bucket that we have here, if we're putting this in a holding bucket, this is a pull down by the offense. That other inside hand, what would be his right arm, is in there. And as he continues this, he starts in a bad position. The defender tries to chuck. And then you can see, let me see if I can snag it right at the right moment. You can see that this tackle pulls this guy down. And that's clearly, I mean, you can just see the arms right in there. Um, And so I mean, you've got arm here, arm here. Clearly, this is a pull down. And so good throw. This is the kind of thing that we want. It also, of course, as we'll see, this is at the point of attack. We're right within that bullseye strike zone. That defender helps or maybe makes that play on that situation. The other thing, and this is why we want to make sure on takedowns that we get them always, but also that we pay attention to it. Watch our defender here. I don't think it's a foul, but there's a little business being given there as well, right? Our referee there probably is going to have the best look at that as he moves from blockers to backside cleanup. He's probably got the best view of that. And 11 ends up getting up, which is what we'd want. But obviously, this is a hold. This is a takedown at the point of attack. And even though it really looked from that side zone view like it was the defender that caused all this ruckus, we can all say with certainty that this was an offensive player who just continued his poor technique and then completed a pull down at the end of that play. So things to look at there from a holding standpoint. Okay. Next play here. I thought we'd transition to a couple plays that deal with free kicks. And so going to set this up, some educational stuff for us here. Hopefully it's helpful. Likely a lot of this is going to be things we know, right? Things that you're aware of that you've done historically, but you never know when something might be a good refresher. So setting this up, this is the second half kickoff. And one thing that is kind of interesting is if you look at the mechanics of our H here, he's adjusted slightly, and that's because this crew had to modify and work the second half with 4 officials as opposed to a crew of 5. Glad to report the official that went out is fine. It's going to work again this Friday, which is good news. But that's why it's slightly different. We'll talk a little bit about alignment in the next clip for the deep guys. But what I want to show you is you've got players here that are and officials. You've got what would be the LJ and the back judge typically, and they've got their free kick lines. They're both counting K, which is what we want. You'll notice through the bill of the hat that they're making eye contact, which is exactly what we want. Making sure that they both agree that they've got 11. And I mean, that's so LJ, you're instructing R, but you're counting K because the 3 deep guys are counting R. And so they check off. All straightforward here. Next thing I want to highlight from our back judge here is you're going to see. Didn't do it this time. That's okay. What we would want here, and what I expected to see but didn't, is before this back judge comes back to his free kick line and puts his arm up, back judges, we want you to come over to this 35, okay? And we want you to just do a check off on making sure that all of the kicking team players, save for the kicker, are within the inside of that 35-yard line. No foot on the line or anything. That's a preventable foul, right? And we don't ever want to have a free kick down start with a foul that we can prevent. If they encroach, either team encroaches after the ready, that's their fault. But before the ready, before all that, if we can fix stuff, let's do so and let's prevent it. So that's what we're looking for. We'll go ahead and let this one go, and then we'll loop back and talk about it some more. Referees, you're checking to make sure that there's at least 4 players either side of the kicker when this kick occurs. And so you've probably got the best look at it, but referees, obviously, we're announcing that 19 here, he's our guy that we know for sure cannot kick this ball, and that would be illegal for a number of reasons. Number one is then the guy behind is not legal, and then we'd also have not four on either side of the kicker. So, and we would shut that down, of course, if it were to occur. And they do the little trickeration. Again, good to just make sure everybody's inside the 35. No issues. Okay, so in typical free kick mechanics, H is on the 30, U is on the 20. The R is going to be on the goal line. And I would say on the goal line, and ideally, we're where we can see what we need to see, but you can shade a little bit to the side of the H just because um that's where the hole in the coverage is with only five of us. But we'll go ahead and let this go. You can't see it off screen, but these two athletes here did a razzle dazzle and they did a fake handoff here, and then the receiver actually kept the ball and is going to come up this near sideline just so that you know where we're headed. Okay, so we'll back this up to where the return happens. And so, referees, you've got the best view on this handoff over here to make sure that we're legal on all fronts there. And then, again, this is a four-person crew. Ideally, the LJ is a little deeper because there's an umpire, but because there's not, we're working hard to cover what we need to. Again, we want the bill of our hats here doing exactly what they're doing. We're looking for threats over here. This guy's looking for threats over here. And then our back judge is coming in looking here for those threats, those blocks. We've got to have a super wide vision when it comes to kick returns because there's just not enough eyes on it, okay? We want to have eyes here, of course. Someone's probably looking here as well, just so that we know kind of that. But ultimately, when we sense that this is being sprung, again, in a five-person mechanic, the LJ is further down and maybe backpedals, excuse me, like a deep wing. But in this case, again, we're pivoting. Our eyes are looking forward. We've got this threat here is probably our next threat. We want to have eyes on that. But one thing, and young officials, more physically fit officials, shall we say, this is a hard thing to capture. Right about here is a great spot to just let this return guy pass you and then just trail the play. Because from where we're at right here, we are too close to all of this action to have any sense of what is actually going on. We're just too close. Backside's going to have eyes on this here, this action, even though it's a chasing returner. And so wing officials, I mean, we're ahead of the runner here. Just stop, let them pass you. Then you don't have to work into the side zone over here. You can stay on your line nice and straight and trail this to the goal line. Back judge doing a good job of closing in. Some back judges would stay on their sideline. Some of them will work in and set up here. Either is supported mechanically. You'll find that in the officials manual. So either is supported mechanically. And again, as this return goes, let's back up and see if we can put eyes on that block in the back a little bit here. I'm assuming it's this guy right here, but we'll keep our eyes wide for this. Again, if we're back here, we've got a much better view of that. And as we can see, oh, that isn't what we want. Sorry about that. So we're going to see this block here, this guy right here on this player, on the kicker. And we're going to see very clearly this is not a foul for block in the back. Two hands out front. That is clearly on the shoulder and on the side. We are not throwing for that. I mean, you can see our official peeked back at it. That's perfect. That's what we want. Had eyes on it, even though we're too close, but that is not something we're throwing on. Okay, again, let's just trail this play. And then as we finish up here, right about here, you see our wing official do exactly what we want, which is he's communicating to the back judge with his thumbs up. Hey, I have him clear of the sideline. You can go up. Now, at that moment, when you signal that, we're releasing the goal line to our back judge. And our line judge here at about the 15 or the 10 can just slow down, get a wide view, and just dead ball officiate and look for any issues that might happen after the fact. So perfectly good there. But go ahead and just pivot to dead ball officiating. There's no need to mirror and go up there. Other thing, even though it's just a little thing, let's watch and see the end of this one more time. Little block there, no issues. I think we're looking, can't quite tell, but let's make sure that we're paying attention here just because we do have some opposite color. That's a little thing, but got to make sure we're dead ball officiating just as well as we can. So just some things to work on as we look at these long kick returns. We've got to keep our cones of vision wide to make sure that we're looking at things, our H, all these others, we're looking backside for anything chippy. And yeah, just we can trail this play and officiate it just a little bit better. A heck of a job not getting beat to the goal line. Always like that when we are ready to officiate the money line in our sport. So good job with this crew. A few things to work on for all of us. Okay, this next play, again, we're fortunate that we have not just the side zone view, but the end zone as well. So I'm going to set this one up as well. Again, I don't have just that little bit of dead ball that we would want. But obviously, back judge, you're coming and checking to make sure everybody is inside the 35 before we blow this ready for play, because that is a completely preventable foul. LJ there, have a little bit of a threat here. That's where my attention's going to be, just to make sure we don't encroach on that. We can see the H on the 30. We're going to see the U on the 20, and we're going to see the B on the money line, which is what we're looking for. That is the approved mechanic. Be mindful of deviations from the mechanic if it's not approved. And if you have a question, don't hesitate. So we'll go ahead and let this one go. All good there. Our wing official here. You can see by the bill of your hat that you're looking at the ball a little bit. That's okay, because I see you kind of put your eyes down shortly. And that's okay. That's what we're now in officiating mode. We know this kick is short. Good closing on that. And then I should just let it go. Sorry, guys. Let me just let this go. And then we'll talk. When we have ourselves a free ball that's then recovered by the kicking team. So a couple little things. Again, for our line judge, not picking on you, but we can tell by the bill of your hat. And that's okay, again, just for the start of it a little bit. But obviously, we need to move and have our focus downfield because you're going to have a lot of dudes racing your way. Good job sensing the short kick. Again, your umpire's right here. And I would say this is in his primary coverage area. And what we'll see happen here is we're kind of bananaing in, and we end up kind of on top of each other a little bit, which is, I wouldn't say it's problematic, but it's one of those things where multiple sets of eyes are looking at the same thing. I think the umpire is on top of this. For our line judge, I'd want you back. You started at the 50. If you were at the 40, that's probably okay. Even the 45 feels a little better, just because then you have that wide angle view on this, which nobody sees. Maybe this, which nobody else is going to see. So again, I think one of our things here is making sure we have that good angle, particularly because our umpire is right on top of this. The other thing is our motion into the field of play. Make sure we're working. And this is hard when if you don't typically work a wing, or if it's different with kickoffs. We work on the sideline, and instead of coming in kind of in this, what we would call a banana, this is one of those where you just want to go down the line and square in, and in reality, it's what the umpire does. He just comes down, doesn't banana in, squares it off, and away we go. So short kicks are weird. They get our hackles up. But again, just be mindful of what our angles look like here. Back judge might have a good look at that, by the way. Um, but because there's only five of us, let's make sure that we keep our angles where they need to be so that we can have proper viewpoints on this. And we know that our other officials are going to cover what we need to, but not bad to pinch in just because it's a free ball as well and dead ball officiate there. So the good news on this one, and we're going to stick with this particular kick play because we also have the end zone view here, which helps us a lot. And it's going to help us with this good mechanic coverage that this crew did. So we let it go here. Referee's right where we'd want him to be on the goal line. He's got that clear view through for whether we have enough either side of the kicker when the ball is kicked. That's super important. So good for that. And if we let it go, our umpire's where he needs to be. I like his angle so that he's, oh, that is a terrible drawing. I like his angle so that he's looking into the field of play, looking for that nearest on rusher here. I actually also will say I like setting up, as the LJ and the BJ, you set up right on the chalk. That makes a lot of sense. I like this working a couple yards off of the field if I'm the H or the U in this mechanic. I think it feels better. It gives us that little bit of extra space and that wider cone of vision. K falls on the ball, or R falls on the ball, and the umpire moves in. I would say, good coverage on this, great hustle. But again, let's make sure that we keep our angles as wide as we can because it's important that we're able to see what we need to see on this. Another thing I would say is for our back judge up here and our line judge over here, the other thing you heard me talk about in the other clip about acting like deep wings. And so if you think about a college game where you've got side judge and a field judge that are deep on a normal scrimmage play, they keep a very deep ball. They keep keep a deep setup. They keep everything in front of us. And so, say instead of a short kick, four receives this and goes up the sideline, right? A really good thing for this LJ to do is to stop about the 40 or the 45, and then as he reads that, is to backpedal, 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 because then you can still keep that wide cone of vision for all of those blockers that are going to be there that you need to have an angle on. And then even if we're back here and the guy's going to beat you because they're all faster than we are, that's totally fine because then what we can do is step back, let him pass us, and then trail over to the end zone where we can make our ruling on the score. So something to think about. We don't get a lot of long returns, so it's hard to find reps for this. But again, moving downfield with a purpose, keeping that super wide cone of vision, and then thinking of it like a deep wing where we back up and keep that wide vision and then let the receiver run past us and then we trail it to the end zone. So something to think about, something to talk about when we pregame and when we talk about kick coverage, because kicks are weird, but they make up a third piece of our game, a third of our game. It's a huge piece of our game is how are we covering those? What do we do to keep that wide angle, make sure we can see as much as we can? Because it seems like there's always some sort of contact that we just wish we had better eyes on. And it'll never be perfect, but if we can at least try and have that good angle, we'll see more than we would otherwise. So officials, that's what I have for this week. Think about it this week during your meetings and on the road to your games. We're thinking about how do we cover free kicks well? What are our mechanics pre the kick, during the return? What does a long return look like? Got some good examples of good practices from these clips and threw a little holding in there as well. So again, I want to thank all of these crews and officials for their time and effort and for being featured in this week's film. Thanks to each of you for your time and your service to the state. Let's have a great week. And again, thank you for all you do. Again, Tyler Spear, your state coordinator of football officials, signing off.